Good morning, marvelous mathematicians. Here we are today. We are going to start with lesson 32, session 1. We're going to take what we learned about area in the last two lessons, and we're going to figure out how we can use area and perimeter of shapes. So in earlier lessons, you learned about area. Now you will learn about another measurable attribute of shapes called perimeter. Okay, that sentence had a lot of new words. Let's go back and look at that. Now you will learn another measurable. What does it mean to be measurable? Well, notice it has that able at the end. That means we are able to measure. So let's write that up here. Measurable means able to measure. That means we can measure it. Okay, let's write it again. Now you will learn about another measurable attribute. Attribute. What is attribute? Okay, attribute is a characteristic or a feature. Characteristic or feature. Let me write that up here. That means it's something about the shape. It's a feature about the shape. Okay, so let's read that sentence one more time now that we know what those words mean. Now you will learn about another measurable attribute of shapes called perimeter. That means we're going to look at a feature of a shape and we're going to be able to measure it. You will also look at how perimeter of a rectangle is related to its area. Use what you know to solve the problem below. Okay, we had a new word in there, or I don't know if it's new. You might have learned it in second grade, but let's go back and look at that. You will also look at how the perimeter, that's our new word, perimeter of a rectangle, is related to its area. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what is the perimeter and how can we solve problems with perimeter. Claire runs along the edges of a soccer field at school. She runs around the whole field one time. How far does Claire run? Okay, so what's happening in this problem? Right, there's Claire. And what is Claire doing? Claire is running along the edges of the school. Okay, so what do they want to know? Let's read it one more time and figure out what's going on in the problem. Claire runs along the edges of the soccer field at school. She runs around the whole field one time. How far does Claire run? Okay, so what was the important information in that problem? Right, she wants to run around the edges of the soccer field. So let's go ahead and draw that in. Let's say she starts at this corner and she runs around the field. Notice how she runs along the length. Now, is she cutting across the field? Is she running across the field? No, she's running around the edges of the field. So let's go ahead and draw our arrows of her path. What would she be doing? Do I need to draw any more? Yep, because she's got to get back to where she started from. There we go. That's her path. If she were to run around the whole field, notice she has to run one direction, then she has to run down, then she has to run across, and then she has to run back up. Now, what do they want us to find out in this problem? Do you remember? What's the question they're asking us? They're asking, how far does Claire run? So in other words, how far does it take her? How many yards does she have to run in order to go all the way around the field? If you need to, pause the video and try to figure it out on your own, and then come back and we'll go over an answer. Okay, now that you're back, how did you solve this? I know that one way that I would have solved it is I would have just followed her path and I would have put all of those yards together. Now, when I put them all together, what am I going to do? Am I going to add or am I going to subtract? Am I going to multiply or am I going to divide? Well, when it says how far does she run, that means we have to add this side, the length at the top, and we have to write add the length at the right, and then we have to add the length at the bottom, and then add the length of the width on the left. So let's go ahead. How would we write that? Well, first she runs from this corner to this corner. How much is that? 60 yards. And then from that corner, what does she do? She runs 40 yards. And from here, where does she go? She runs another 60 yards. And then she's at this corner. What does she need to do? She has to run back to where she started from. So how can we put all of those numbers together? Does anyone see any patterns there? Look at that, a 60 plus 40. What do 60 and 40 make? So if I have 6 tens and 4 tens, how many tens do I have? I have 10 tens, which is 100. And notice we have 6 tens and 4 tens. And 6 10 and 4 tens make 10 tens, so we have another 100. And then what is 100 plus 100? It is 200. Now, we can't just leave 200. No naked numbers. 200 what? 200 monkeys? Nope. 200 yards. Now, this is different from when we talked about area. Remember when we talked about area, we had to multiply two sides. And when we multiplied, we found a square unit. But since we're only adding, our answer is going to be 200 yards. Okay, let's turn the page over and see what they did on the back. Okay, are connected. Look back. How did you find how far Claire ran? Go ahead and explain it. What did you do? Or explain what we did. Okay, what we did is we added all the lengths together. Okay, let's look at the look ahead. You have already learned about finding area, the amount of space a shape covers. Perimeter is the distance around a shape. The red line around the soccer field shows its perimeter. Okay, let's pause here for a minute from our worksheet and let's remember what we've been learning. And if you have flashcards at home or a way to make a notebook, then this would be a good time to do that. So remember, the last 2 weeks we've been working on area, and area is the space covered by a shape. So when I have a rectangle, it is the space inside the shape. We had our combined rectangles, and again, it was the space inside the shape. And even if we had a triangle, area is the space inside the triangle. And remember, to find area, we multiplied the length times the width. And so that was the formula that we used to find area. Now this week, we're going to be learning about perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around a shape. So if you can put this into your notebook or write it down so you can remember, this would be a good time to take your notes. Now remember, the distance around a shape. So I'm going to start in one corner and I'm going to go around the shape. Notice how I'm using my arrows and I'm measuring all the lengths. And I go all the way back around to where I started from. So it is around the shape. So use your finger, go around a shape. Now, if I had a triangle, I would do the same thing. I would start at a vertex and I would just go around the shape. See? And we had to go past 3 different lengths, right? We had to go down this vertex and then we went to our third vertex and then back to the beginning. Now, what you'll need to remember is perimeter has a different formula. What we do for perimeter is we add all the lengths. So as we're working on area and perimeter, you have to remember that we find them in different ways. So we'll use our flashcards as we work through our worksheets. Okay, so now let's take a look at that soccer field. What did they tell us about the soccer field? What about that perimeter? What did they do for the perimeter? There's a red line. Notice they have the red line going all the way around the soccer field. Okay, in problem 1, you found the perimeter of the field. What operation did you use? What did we do? You're right, we added. Write an equation you could use to find the perimeter of the field. Does anyone remember what we did? Let's see if we can remember without looking. What did we do? We started up here in the corner, right? And we are going to add all the lengths, all 4 lengths together. So we did 60 plus 40 plus 60 plus 40. And what answer did we get? We've got 200 yards. Remember to have your units. Okay, so let's use that same idea and let's do C. You can find the perimeter of shapes other than rectangles. Find the perimeter of this shape. Let's look at this shape. How many sides are on this shape? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are all of them the same? No. Are some of them the same? Yes, our top and bottom are the same length, and then our four side lengths are all the same. So how would we find the perimeter of this shape? Well, if you need to, draw a spot at the first corner. So you make sure you add all the lengths. So if you need to, you can always draw your arrows too, right? We're going to go around the shape. And if you kind of keep yourself organized, you'll be able to remember all your numbers. So we're going to start here at this corner. What's our first length? We have 7. What's the next length? 2. What's our next length? 2. What's the bottom length? 7. And then we have to go up 2. And then one more last length, which is 2. Now, there's a couple of ways we could add this. We could just try to add them and go all the way across. But remember, we can use commutative property to put the numbers together that are easier to add. What would be easier to add? I know that I could add 7 plus 7 pretty quickly because it's a double. And then I have 4 2s. Let me rewrite this so it's easier to add. So I know 7 plus 7 is 14. Now, when I need to add by 2s, I can just skip count by 2s. Skip count with me. Here we go. 2, 4, 6, 8. So all these 2s make 8. Now I just have to add 14 plus 8. What is 14 plus 8? It is 22. Now, no naked numbers. 22 what? 22 feet. And you can use the abbreviation FT for feet. Okay, reflect. Richard wants to put a fence around his backyard. Does he need to find the area or the perimeter of his backyard? What does he need to do to figure out how much fence he needs? What's going on in this problem? You're right, there's a guy named Richard, and what does he want to do? He wants to put a fence around his backyard. Now, if you're going to put a fence in your backyard, I want you to think about that. Can you sketch a fence for your backyard over on the side? Remember, one of our ways to problem solve is to sketch a picture. So I'm drawing a fence. That's his backyard. Okay, now to make sure we know what we're doing, let's go back and read the problem a second time. Richard wants to put a fence around his backyard. We have that. Does he need to find the area or the perimeter of his backyard? Look at that. They're asking us a question. Does he need area or perimeter to find how to put that fence up? So let's think. I'm going to draw 2 just to kind of show you. They're asking us whether we should use area or perimeter. Remember, area is everything on the inside. And perimeter is just around the outside. So if you're going to build a fence, are you going to put wood for your fence all along your backyard? Or are you going to put wood just along the edges? Think about that. Think about your backyard. Is your fence covering the entire backyard? Or does it just go around the edges? Remember, this is area and this is perimeter. Right now, tell me, which one do you think Richard's going to use? You should have picked perimeter. He is going to use perimeter because perimeter goes around the yard, just like a fence goes around the yard. It is around the yard. If you need to, stop and write this down. Okay, and they asked us a second question. What does he need to do to figure out how much fence he needs? What does he need? Okay, let's go back and look at our cards. What do we need for area? If he's looking for area, he needs length and width. And are we finding area? Nope. So let's look at our perimeter card. What does he need in order to find the perimeter? He has to add all the lengths. If he has to add all the lengths, what does he need to know? Can I add my lengths right now? No, I don't know what my lengths are. I don't know what this length is. I don't know what the width is. And since I don't know my numbers, I can't figure it out yet. So when it asks us, what does he need to do to figure out how much fence he needs, what is he going to have to do? He's going to have to measure the lengths of all sides. Okay, and that is the end of the lesson. What you're going to do now is you're going to take out your next worksheet, page 713. Notice it's got the green, so you have to try to do this one on your own. What they want you to do, first of all, is look at what you know about perimeter. Notice I talked about the definition. I talked about how to solve and find perimeter. I even drew some pictures and figured out the perimeter. So you go ahead and do that. And then there are a few word problems that you get to read through and solve. When you're done, come back and watch video number 2.